At the very end of 2019, Netflix released the Turkish thriller Atiye, or The Gift. The first season was a trip and ended with a head-scratcher. Season 2 just landed. Does it answer questions or raise more? And will that opening scene in Season 1 ever make sense? This is going to have mild spoilers for Season 1, so just know that going in. If you haven't seen Season 1, you might want to either watch that and then come back to this review, or watch my review of Season 1 and then, you can go from there. At the end of Season 1, Atiye makes her way to the mountain, to the temple, and then in a flash, the mountain disappears, or at least most of it. When Atiye wakes up and makes her way back to her family, her sister is now alive, but has no idea who she is. And Kansu is now going by a different name. Atiye is now in a world where nobody knows who she is, and some of those that she knows are completely different. And no babies are being born in this world that she wakes up to. So the question for this season is, will Atiye figure out what her purpose is, and will that enable her to get back to where she was, where people knew who she was? I still am really enjoying the character of Atiye, played by Beren Saat. She's got a ton of charisma, and she really has to convey a ton of different emotions, sometimes just in rapid succession because of everything that she's dealing with and when she encounters people or when she finds out new bits of information. The mystery in this season is still just as high as it was in the first. Now Atiye is really trying to figure out what's going on with her and the world at large. And we as the audience are in the exact same boat we were in before, confused and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Normally in a series, you can watch an episode or two and space it out as your schedule dictates. Sometimes you find a show that is absolutely so compelling that you just sit down and binge it all. With this season of Atiye, I think you really should binge it all in one sitting, just so that you can kind of have it make sense. The story is compelling in this because we get to see different dimensions of characters now. And we're seeing them from different perspectives. We also have characters who are now taking more of a forefront in the story. So we're getting some more development on them where they were pretty much in the background or just had very minor roles in Season 1. If you were a fan of Aaron in the first season, he's completely different in this one. And that's because he's got a lot of different influences affecting his character. And so you may not like him, you may be frustrated by him, or you may find yourself absolutely drawn to this new perspective of his character. Ozan is still a bit cunning, but he's less depressed and maybe a little bit more angry this season. Kansu, who is Atiye's sister in Season 1, we now meet as Elif. Yep, she has no idea who Atiye is, but I still like that there is a good connection between those characters, that they make their awkward interactions and just them really getting to meet each other for the very first time, at least on Elif's side, it's convincing, and it really works in the story. The landscapes of this show are absolutely beautiful, whether we're in the city or we're out in the countryside. I mean, there are some spots where it shows kind of like these aerial views of a city or a town that looks to be carved straight out of mountains. And I mean, really what it makes me, I want to visit Turkey so bad. I want to go and visit these places because they're just beautiful. I also like that Göbekli Tepe, the place where the mountain is and the temple, is actually a real place. It has so much archaeological history to it in real life that it just adds some, that whole level of realism to what we're watching. Now, while this season is intriguing, it's also very frustrating. It didn't feel like there were answers or even progress that was being made in an efficient manner. The episodes tease out the information, and I still found it interesting, but it's not wholly satisfying. And I feel at times more questions than answers were being doled out. I mean, there are unseen forces that are affecting and dictating the motivations of certain characters. And then certain characters talk in these vagaries where you think you know what they're referring to, but you can't be 100% certain. Is what we're seeing a new timeline or a new dimension? Or is it just a world that has been changed because of Atiye's actions from Season 1? And why do certain characters know things about actions or events that other characters that should know have zero idea about? And I know that's vague, but that's also just trying to avoid giving some spoilers away. While this does have a little bit of that archaeological mystery to it, like the first one did, this one takes much more of a deeper focus on the family relationships. It uses that drama to then create some pretty good character arcs and some story directions. And the relationships just get more convoluted and more complex as the show progresses, which leads to some fun explosions. And I still like how the series hedges towards that sci-fi arena, or maybe a little bit of the supernatural. It feels grounded enough in reality with elements that are sitting right on that edge of implausibility. And so I like how it just kind of rides that line. And so I don't, my brain can't figure out, is this going towards the sci-fi or the supernatural? Is it still going to remain kind of based in reality, or what's going on? Or is it a mixture of all of it? This season is 8 episodes long, with each of them being about 45 minutes. I do think that some of the story could have been condensed or compressed to make it move along just a little bit more efficiently. I mean, I was still entertained by it, but the pace felt rushed at certain times too. And that especially came about in certain character movements or moments where we were rushing to get through something or to make characters do certain things and glossing over maybe certain details or things that would make that part of the story more engaging. And then at other parts, it would slow way down and take a breather where I'm not sure it really needed a breather. I love complex stories, and especially ones that make you scratch your head. But I also like there to be a resolution, or at least some satisfying answers. I mean, I can get behind that even if new questions are raised. But I don't think that this second season answered enough of the questions that it raised in the previous season. I do like the hints that they gave, and I like what they were kind of hedging towards with Aaron and Atiye. I just wish that there would have been a little bit more progress to the story before it concluded with this season. To answer one of the questions that I raised at the very beginning, we do get a little bit more info on that opening scene of season 1. I know that that was one of the things that really bothered me at the end of season 1, where we had this opening that was never addressed again or resolved. And so it was just like, very frustrating. And in season 2, we get more information, like I said, but still nothing concrete yet. We haven't gotten any kind of resolution. So now we wait for season 3 and hope that we'll get maybe a conclusion to at least that weird part of the story. And hopefully we'll also get some other resolutions to everything that's going on. I don't know how many seasons they have planned out for this. I really do hope that they have a roadmap already set out, because when you start to get into some of these convoluted timelines and situations that they've placed the characters in, I really want to know that the writers and the creators know exactly where they're going. That's what makes a series great, where you take a series like Dark, who knew where they were going, and even though it was very complex, very convoluted, could take us there, versus a story like Lost, which was amazing, but I think they got kind of lost in the middle of it, no pun intended, and then maybe found their way to the end. Who knows on that one? So season 2 of Atiye is a satisfying but frustrating watch all at the same time. I think it could have been a lot better. I think it could have been condensed, and they could have certainly answered more questions before raising a ton more that they did. And like I said, this is probably one that's best watched all together, back to back to back, because then it will make a little bit more of cohesive sense instead of having breaks in between your viewings. There's sex but no nudity, some profanity, and some violence. I give season 2 of Atiye 3 out of 5 couches. Are you a fan of the series? Do you have a favorite character? I think my favorite is Aaron, but in this season, I kind of wanted to slap him at times. I'd love to know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.